mystery travelers. We are here once again. I have just finished banishing my temple. The brazier is lit, and I finally figured out how to turn my phone into high definition mode as opposed to its lowly 360. So hopefully this looks a little better, although for this there's really not much to see. You kind of just see me sitting here. Let's see what happens. So we are still in Earth of Air. Today we're going to be calling OCNM, OCNM. So let's get it going. This is my favorite activity every week, so thank you for watching, the few of you who actually watch every week. Teach me, O Creator of all things, to have correct knowledge and understanding, for your wisdom is all that I desire. Speak your word in my ear, O Creator of all things, and set your wisdom in my heart. Amen. Behold the ring! Lo, this it is. This is it, wherewith all miracles and divine works and wonders were wrought by Solomon. This is it which philosophy dreameth of. This is it which the angels scarce know. This is it, and blessed by his name. Yea, his name be blessed forever. Without this I shall do nothing. Blessed be his name that encompasses all things. Wonders are in him, and his name is wonderful. Pele. His name works wonders from generation to generation. Amen. Behold the layman. As the holy table conciliates heaven and earth, let this layman, which I place over my heart, conciliate me to the holy table. Amen. Pa med fam med drux fam fam ur ged graf drux med graf graf med med or med gal ged ged drux. Pa drux un tal fam don ur graf don or gissig gon med un ged med graf van ur don don un. Pa drux ur don ur drux un med graf graf med med graf sef ged ged ur mals mals fam un. Pa gon med un graf fam mals tal ur pa drux un van un med un gon drux drux ur. Pa med drux fam ur ged graf drux med graf graf med med or med gal ged ged drux. Pa drux un tal fam don ur graf don or gissig gon med un ged med graf van ur don don un. Pa drux ur don ur drux un med graf graf med med graf sef ged ged ur mals mals fam un. Pa gon med un graf fam mals tal ur pa drux un van un med un gon drux drux ur. Pa med drux fam ur ged graf drux med graf graf med med or med gal ged ged drux. Pa drux un tal fam don ur graf don ur gissig gon med un ged med graf van ur don don un. Pa drux ur don ur drux un med graf graf med med graf sef ged ged ur mals mals fam un. Pa gon med un graf fam mals tal ur pa drux un van un med un gon drux drux ur. Pa med drux fam ur ged graf drux med graf graf med med or med gal ged ged drux. Pa drux un tal fam don ur graf don or gissig gon med un ged med graf van ur don don un. Pa drux ur don ur drux un med graf graf med med graf sef ged ged ur mals mals fam un. Pa gon med un graf fam mals tal ur pa drux un van un med un gon drux drux ur. Pa med drux fam ur ged graf drux med graf graf med or med gal ged ged drux. Pa drux un tal fam don ur graf don ur gissig gon med un ged med graf van ur don don un. Pa drux ur don ur drux un med graf graf med med graf sef ged ged ur mals mals fam un. Pa gon med un graf fam mals tal ur pa drux un man un med un gon drux drux ur. Pa med fam med drux fam fam ur ged graf drux med graf med or med gal ged drux pa drux untal fam dan ur graf dan ur gesigan med ged med graf van ur dan pa drux ur dan ur drux med graf med graf sef ged ur mals fam pa gan med graf fam mals tal ur pa drux van med gan drux ur pa med fam med drux fam ur ged graf drux med graf med or med gal ged drux pa drux untal fam dan ur graf dan ur gesigan med ged med graf van ur dan pa drux ur dan ur drux med graf med graf sef ged ur mals fam pa gan med graf fam mals tal ur pa drux van med gan drux ur med gan gisig dan ur van ur dan ur med graf med dan ur med gan ur dan med gisig van ur graf med gan gisig dan ur van ur dan ur med graf med dan ur med gan ur dan med gisig van ur graf med gan gisig dan ur van ur dan ur med graf med dan ur med gan ur dan med gisig van ur graf med gan gisig dan ur van ur dan ur med graf med dan ur med gan ur dan med gisig van ur graf med gan gisig dan ur van ur dan ur med graf med dan ur med gan ur dan med gisig van ur graf med gan gisig dan ur van ur dan ur med graf med dan ur med gan ur dan med gisig van ur graf med gan gisig dan ur van ur dan ur med graf med dan ur med gan ur dan med gisig van ur graf Gales, Gethog, Thauth, Horwin, Enon, Ayoth, Galethog, Zafkiel, Zedikiel, Kumael, Raphael, Haniel, Mikael, Gabriel, El, Me, Ese, Iana, Akele, Azdoban, Stimkul, Ilur, Demal, Heoa, Biegia, Stimkul, Ab, Ath, Izad, Ekeye, Madimi, Esemele, An, Ave, Liba, Rokle, Hagonel, Ilmes, Sabathiel, Zadkiel, Madimiel, Selemiel, Nogachiel, Korabiel, Lavaniel. Lua, Leng, Sach, Urch, Iad, Moz, Zir, Iad, Bab, Sna, Iad, Sor, Guru, Iad, Ser, Osf. Mikma, Goho, Piad, Zirkomsat, Asien, Biab, Oslando, Nors, Chis, Orthil, Gigipa, Undel, Chis, Ta, Puim, Kemosple, Telok, Ka, Ien, Toltorg, Chis, Chisige, Im Ozi, Dist, Brigda, Ad, Torzul, Li, Ol, Balzargo, Od, Alla, Thiln, Osne, Taab, Dluga, Vomsag, Lonsa, Kapni, Ali, Vors, Kla, Homil, Kokasib, Fafen, Zizop, Ad, Mi, Noag, Deg, Nik, Tab, Vua, Na, Iel, Panpir, Nal, Pregi, Kausig, Pil, Noan, Unala, Balt, Ad, Vuan, Do, O, Iap, Mad, Goholor, Gohus, Amiran, Mikma, Ihehusos, Ka, Kakom, Od, Do, O, A, I, Noar, Mi, Kaols, A, Aiom, Kasarm Gohia, Zakar, Uniglag, Ad, Im, Uamar, Pugo, Plapli, Ananiel, Kwan, Baz Melo, Ta, Piripson, Ol, Nazavab, Ox, Kasarmg, Vran, Chis, Vigeg, Zabramg, Baltoa, Goho, Ad, Soba, Miam, Trian, Ta, Lol, Sis, Abayunin, Ad, Azagair, Rior, Irgil, Chis, Dad, Spa, Ox, Busd, Kausgo, De, Chis, Odi, Puran, Te, Loa, Kakrig, O, Isalmen, Loncho, Ad, Voina, Karbaf, Nisso, Bagle, Avauago, Gohon, Nisso, Bagle, Mo, Mayo, Siaion, Od, Mabza, Iad, Oais, Momar, Poilp, Nis Zamran, Siaofi, Kausgo, Od, Bliors, Ad, Korsi, Ta, Abrahamig. Ol vinu Ad Zakam, Ilsga, Oknum. Od Lanchvorski Iad, Gohus Pugo, Ils, Nisso, Ad Darbs, Dujab, Hexarp, Od, Dujab, Oro, Iba, Eospi, O duyap ba taiva. O duyap abayorio. Auzaif hitmorda. Ahaiospi. Hiptoga od atotar. O duyap ayawai. O duyap oit. Olvinu od zakam ilzga oknum. That was a very fast image. A sphere. The cube in the center. Extending from the corners of the cube are lines that go through the surface of the sphere and extend an equivalent distance beyond the edge as from the cube itself. For those who wish to picture this, we have a sphere, obviously three-dimensional, but for the purposes of illustrating for the camera. In the center, cube, and from the corners, lines that go out and exceed the boundary of the sphere in equal distance that they are from the cube to the perimeter, and then from the perimeter beyond it's the same distance. So far it's just been lines. Let me see if I get any color associated. Blue-green, like a sea foam green. It is both blue and the green. But it's a muted green, it's not a vibrant green. Again, like a sea foam green. Asking for the correct pronunciation of the name. Okniam. Okniam? Okniam. I can't even recall if that correlates with the name that I put down. Okniam. Okniam. What do you oversee? What is your area of expertise? It's breaking to form anew. Almost like cloning? Taking a thing, breaking it in two, and then those two things are the same as the first thing. How can this be used in my life, in my spirit? This is an elaborate image, it doesn't really make sense. I see myself in the center of something like a field, but I am like a line, like there's no form to myself. I just know that this is me in the middle, and aspects of this are being broken off and planted in the field around me. And this is done until the center stalk is the same as all of the pieces that are spread around the field, and then they all grow together and become anew. So how does this, what does this correlate to? What does this equal? I keep hearing the word talent. So, if I understand this correctly, and as I speak, if I'm incorrect, I'm sure I will be shown something different. When one engages in an activity, or a hobby, or a passion, one takes a piece of oneself and inserts it into that action. And by repeated interaction with this, one grows the talent or the skill, and that skill becomes a part of oneself that grows separate from oneself but becomes equal. This doesn't... Still trying to wrap my head around this concept. It just seems odd to me. Please clarify for me so that I understand. The image has shifted into something like a liquid or a plasma, where the core being solid, the scoop is taken out of it and placed in another apparatus, another device, another holding container. It matters not, they're just separate, but the density of them shifts until they are equal. This still doesn't make much sense to me. I have another image. These entities are rather patient and will repeat things over and over again until you understand. This is very good, especially for this situation. There's an old dying tree, and it is releasing seeds. And as the seeds fall far away from the branches, also some fall towards the trunk. The trunk withers and dies, and all the seeds sprout at the same time and become new trees that are all equal. How is this useful in my life? What does this mean for me? Okay. This has to do with balance. It's not necessarily a warning against spreading oneself too thin, although that is an underlying message. I'm going to use an example from my own life. I play the guitar, I play the hand drum, I've played the keyboard in the past, I've messed around with turntables and synthesizers. Every time I interact with a new instrument, I'm taking a piece of myself and cultivating it to become that thing. Like that skill. So in essence, I am dropping a seed of myself into that, and that is growing, and it eventually becomes equal with the center, with the center spirit that is me. Still being a part of myself. The difficulty in learning myriad instruments such as that is that for each one, a new seed is required, and they all grow at the same rate. But I mean, I know this to be false from my own life, because I can focus more on one and I feel like I don't have the same involvement with the other ones. Like, for instance, I've been playing guitar for very long, and if I picture my skill with that, it is much more focused. There's much more intention directed towards it. So I would think that would be a greater aspect. So show me why this allegory keeps appearing and help me make sense of it. okay, it's redirecting me. So I went out on a limb of my own and equated the splitting of the instruments into different things, but they are not. They are the same. Music, the whole is one. Cooking, baking, another one. I play an inordinate amount of video games. Video games is another one. Reading, listening to music, all these things that I enjoy to do. These are all aspects of myself that are separate but still joined. It's like directed, focused energy. This is more so than other times. This is difficult for me to wrap my head around as to how this actually correlates to something beneficial or useful. So I understand taking of oneself and sowing a seed into a different hobby or something, and then everything growing together. The height of growth is limited by the amount of seeds that are planted or scattered about. So if one has one's fingers in various enterprises, you're limited in your growth because your energies are spread out among so many different things. Because the growth, it has a limit. There's only so much energy to go around. There's only so much focus and intent. So if one, for instance, devoted one's entire life to one task, to one hobby, they would take that seed out of oneself and plant it into this hobby, and the center would grow and be very tall and dominant, and massive. Spreading into 2, it would grow but not be as massive. Spreading into 5, it would grow but not be as massive. Spreading into 10 or 20 or 30, grow but not as massive. So, having this information, this entity is suggesting that if one is aware that one is scattering one's energy too thinly or too far and would like to progress further in one aspect, one must look at one's field and see what has grown and see what no longer serves, what is no longer necessary. Something you've spent a lot of energy into but is not really assisting you in moving forward or progressing into whichever other area you would like. It's time to truncate it. It's time to leave it alone, to let it wither and return to the source. And by eliminating that, all of the other ones will grow exponentially. I'm not sure exponentially is the right word, but I'm sure you get my meaning. Going back earlier to the 5 versus the 3, right? If you were spread into 5 different things, you grow to a certain level. Cut that down to 4 now, and you can grow, all of those will grow a little more. So it is the trimming of excess. Eliminating things that no longer serve in order that other things that do serve may become better, greater. And this makes sense now to me. It's like a direction of energy. Like if one studies ritual magic or anything in this realm and under which I am participating at the moment, one can read and practice many different paths, but in practicing all of the many different paths, you will not make very much progress because you've cast your seed too far, too wide. So you experiment with these things until you find one that you are drawn to, and then you raise the field and eliminate all of these other things and focus on the one, and then that becomes strong and grows. I, for instance, have pretty much abandoned all other ritual aside from this Enochian ritual, and I get a lot from it. But if I were to divulge my attention and, for instance, go into like goetic conjuration, this would shrink while this would grow, and they would reach equilibrium. But I definitely prefer this tree. This is a very good tree for me. So, knowing that, show me what I need to cut out from my life. There are two things, one of which I will not mention, but the second, which is probably going to be common for many who view this as the work that I do, the physical job that I have. It's not progressing me in any other avenue. It's merely providing monetary sustenance. There's really nothing for me there. For me, it seems to just be a necessary evil. I must have money in order to pay my rent, in order to be able to be alone, in order to be able to do things like this. But I'm being shown that if I cut that away and focus more on things that I truly love and truly have passion for, that the money will come. This requires a leap of faith. And I must admit I am uncomfortable doing that at this time. But I mean, this is not shocking news to me. Oh, another interest that has recently been sparked would be a good avenue for me to pursue. I just have to dive in. And perhaps I shall, but I will not completely sever the safety net that I have in the job and flow free just yet. I don't know why I've been saying all that out loud. That means nothing to anyone else except for myself, but I've become accustomed to speaking what happens. As always, I must ask if there is any generic information or a generic message for anyone watching. Find a central spot and look around your own field. See what seeds you have planted and what you are growing. What crops do you really love? And what crops do you no longer need? Make the decision. Act. Remove things that are no longer serving you in any way, things that are only a distraction, things that are detracting your attention from other more important things in your life. Choose which crops to nourish, choose which crops to feed, and choose which ones to deprive and starve. Some are already doing this, some have this in hand, and some are spread very far and very thin and must truncate many other things in order to focus on the few that truly matter. I keep seeing this ancient tree. It's covered in moss. Its root structure connected to other massive trees around it. There's really no message here. It's just a beautiful scene, a serene place for me to sit. Is there any further message, anything else that needs to be said? It's truly as simple as identifying those hobbies that you truly love, those passions that you have, and embracing them fully, and pouring yourself into them and watching them grow. And because you love them, because you're so into them and interested, this can become a great pillar in your life. Nearly anything that you pour your heart and soul into can become your security. It can become your source of income, your source of happiness. Where you pour your soul, attention flows from the outside. You're creating a beacon, and you will draw others to it like a moth to a flame. Your passion, your creativity, your love sends out a vibration, and it calls other things to it. It sends out this message, and it resonates in others, and others are drawn to it if they have that same passion or same talent or same idea. And they will see what you have made, and they will love it too. I really have nothing further, so I'm going to thank and dismiss the entity. Thy name be mighty, O God, which canst open the veil whereby thy all-powerful will may be opened unto men. Power, glory, and honor be unto thee, for thou art the same God of all things, and art life eternal. Amen. Naim. It's interesting. That was one of the first ones. It's taken me a while to wrap my head around what they were trying to say. I'm just constantly fed with images, and usually I can understand the meanings, but this was kind of obscure. It's kind of difficult for me to wrap my head around it and truly understand what they were saying. It was saying. It wasn't more than one entity. Probably sound like a broken record, but I am pretty lightheaded. Not as bad as last week, though. Last week was an exception. That extended into the next day. It's kind of why I limit myself to once a week. Or I would love to do this every day, but I think it would cause it would just make me spacey for every other activity that I want to do. Ugh. Well, as always, thanks for joining me. Next week we shall finish out the Earth Quadrant and the Air Tablet, and then we will move on